Hello and thank you for watching this ag forecast for the Western U.S. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, you're probably accustomed to hearing Eric Snodgrass's voice here on the Western Regional Forecast, but we're going to be switching roles here a little bit. Eric's strength has always been in the longer range forecasts here and some of our seasonal forecasting, and so he's going to focus on that. My strength has always been on the shorter term regional forecasts, so in addition to putting out the Corn Belt, Northeast, and Canadian Prairie forecasts, I'll be taking over the West and the South as well. I know Eric is the best of the best when it comes to this stuff, but I promise you guys will get accustomed to hearing my voice here on Tuesday and Friday mornings as well. Let's go ahead and jump in. Let's take a look at the satellite picture. I love starting off my forecast here with a look at the satellite across the lower 48 and the Gulf of Mexico. Here you can pick out several of our main features here as we go through the forecast here on Tuesday morning. We've got Hurricane Laura now expected to be a major hurricane as it makes landfall here across portions of the Texas and Louisiana coast on Wednesday night as a Category 3 or higher hurricane. We've got a frontal boundary across parts of the Great Lakes and the Northeast with widespread thunderstorm activity across the state of Wisconsin into lower Michigan and Lake Michigan. And then as we head all the way back to the west across the western U.S., our ridge continues to spin away, even though it is beginning to break down a little bit or open up. But what you can see here, if you can make out the opaque shading here, the widespread smoke field from the wildfires across the west now beginning to advect off to the east as that ridge begins to open up. So now we're starting to see some of that wildfire smoke, even where where our office is located here, where Eric and I live across central Illinois, starting to get some of the effects of the wildfire smoke there, the hazy sky and those red sunsets. Again, we can take a look at the smoke forecast here from the high-resolution rapid refresh with the fire activity across the west, the ridge beginning to open up, so we're starting to get some of that flow advecting the smoke off to the east across the Midwest and even into portions of the Mid-Atlantic as we head into midweek. Now, we're going to take a look at the 500 millibar flow here across North America. There is Laura, but what I want to point out here is our ridge opening up. We've got the flow coming up and over the top of that ridge. We've got a broad trough here in the Gulf of Alaska right now, and where we've got the convergence between those two features, and then some deeper moisture. We're looking at the precipitable water content here, the departure from average or anomaly. And so where you see the orange, the red, the black, and the gray shading through this corridor, this is where we've got some pretty deep moisture as far as climatological norms go. So we've got the ridge. I'm going to go ahead and draw some pictures here. The ridge across the southwest. We've got the flow opening up there. We've got the trough across portions of the Gulf of Alaska. We've got flow coming around the base of that. So again, we've got strong convergence, upper level convergence here. We've got the moisture there, and that'll be in place as we head through the next 48 to 60 hours. So what that does is it brings up the threat of additional thunderstorms here and some of these dry thunderstorms that ignite more in the way of wildfires. So what I'm playing here is an animation of lightning activity as forecast by the European model. And we can go ahead and pause this and just stop it each and every afternoon. So heading through this afternoon and evening, so Tuesday, mid-afternoon into the evening hours, watching for a corridor of dry thunderstorms, most likely across this region. We'll then see the same thing as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. And again, this is where we've got that upper level flow coming around the ridge and around the trough, converging across this region where we've got some higher moisture content. So as we look at the fire weather outlooks, day one, again, looking for the chance for those isolated dry thunderstorms from northern California, Nevada, northeastward across portions of Idaho into Montana and western Wyoming. Generally the same region as we head into day two, and then day three as well, a 10% probability outlook over across generally the same area. And again, I can keep drawing the same picture here on each and every map. We've got our high to the south, the trough off to the north. Again, convergence right there, leading to the threat for those dry thunderstorms. And again, this is a dry thunderstorm setup. We're not really getting a lot in the way of the precipitation with these. This is being driven by strong flow up and over the top of the Rockies here. So again, we'll see some precipitation there, perhaps north of the Snake River Valley. Generally, these are dry thunderstorms that are going to lead to the continued risk of some of these lightning-induced thunderstorms. Now, the good news is we are going to see, some in the way of gusty winds, but this is not really a really windy situation. We're seeing some of those winds gusting maybe 30 to 40 miles per hour at times, again, in the mountains here north of the Snake River, but generally speaking, not seeing an extreme, exacerbation here as far as the winds go. So it's been a dry first 3 weeks of August. We're looking at the precipitation ranks here August 1st through the 24th. And what we can look at here is we've got 128 years worth of records. One on this map is the wettest year, 128, I'm sorry, would be the driest year. And so we've got several here, 125 to 128 across the southwest. Again, with the ridge parked across this region, it has been a very, very dry start to the month of August. And as we look at the last 72 hours, we've seen some here on the leeward side here, coming around this backside or the southwest side of our ridge here. But generally, it has been a dry last 3 days, and it's going to be a mostly dry next week as we look at the next 7 days of precipitation forecast. Again, we get some activity right through this corridor. This is the primary region that I'm concerned about, some of these thunderstorms. And again, the risk of some of these being dry thunderstorms. We'll also see some rainfall here from the monsoon here coming around across parts of central Arizona through northern New Mexico, and then through the Intermountain West here across parts of the central Rockies. Now, as we take it a little bit further out, looking at the pattern as we head into the weekend and next week, we're going to be seeing a ridge build across the Gulf of Alaska with troughing across central Canada. So the flow is going to be doing something like this, where, again, the primary storm track is going to have storm systems making their way across the prairie into the northern plains and then sweeping across the Midwest. So the storm track will not be across the west. We're not going to see, as we go back several weeks, we're seeing some of these troughs build across the Pacific Northwest. That's just not going to be the case at this point. We're going to be seeing those troughs moving off to the south and east across the prairie and then ejecting across the plains. So what we see is, again, the continued threat for maybe some thunderstorm activity over the next few days with the convergence there moving across the Rockies. But generally, the more active storm track here is going to be found across the prairies, sweeping down into the central U.S. And then, of course, we've got the impacts from our tropical systems making their way northward over the next 3 to 5 days. Temperatures, again, with the upper level pattern being what it is, if I go ahead and just jump back here, we'll see, brief cool downs, little fronts sweeping through the region, but with ridging really resuming pretty quickly on the backside of each of these little systems. It's going to be a predominantly warm pattern over the next 7 to 10 days, and likely beyond that into the 2 to 3 week time frame across the west. We'll look at our temperature anomalies here over the next 7 to 10 days, and again, bringing it back to today, seeing temperatures anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees warmer than average, especially as you head across southern portions of the western U.S. As we head into the weekend, we'll see a little bit of a shot of cooler air across the north, resetting temperatures about to seasonally appropriate norms, with that cooler air then ejecting across the northern plains as we get into the weekend. Another shot of cooler air, maybe making a more substantial dent in the western region as we head into the last days of August, the very first days of September here, right around August 31st, September 1st. A little push of cooler air. Again, the core of that going to be ejecting across portions of Montana, Wyoming, and then the northern plains. And then quickly you see the warm-up resume here. Ridging resumes across the western U.S. So while we'll get brief little cool shots coming in across this region, we'll see ridging really taking back over as we, that should not be a blue arrow. We'll draw that back in red there. We'll see ridging really holding on across the west as we head into the first week of September. So your highs for the next 5 days, again, that heat beginning to expand across the Midwest. The core of the heat, 90s and 100s across the central and northern plains today. Heading into tomorrow, again, the core of the heat across the Midwest. Here's our highs on Thursday. Friday, we see that first little cool shot of air across portions of eastern Montana and eastern Wyoming, dropping off into the central plains into Saturday. And then we know on the backside of that, as we get into around August 31st and September 1st, likely another cool shot of air for northern portions of the western U.S., but ridging kicks back in, warming right back up into the middle portions of next week.